Surprise, I have a mustache now. Thanks to my wife asking me nicely. But today we're really here to talk about the set 2 of Battle Spirits Saga, False Gods. All of the cards have been spoiled now, so we can see all of them. And first thing I want to do is talk about some synergies and combos that I can see with a bunch of these cards. We'll start up here at the top. We've got Mecha Wing Duck from the starter deck, I believe. Yeah. Set 1, basically. And it says during your opponent's attack step, when one of your opponent's spirits returns to their hand or deck, place a core from the void onto the spirit. Well, we got an additional Dream Bomb in this set. So now there's, and this one can only happen in your opponent's attack step. So there's another way of potentially getting the effect off of Mecha Wing Duck. The next card we have is AntMan. When destroyed by opponent, place a core from the void into your reserve. This card is a 2-cost. Some really awesome ramp. I think this card is going to be in a lot of decks, but it's 2-cost. So if it dies while Friezatel's on the board, you're going to draw a card. Aravata can summon it. And also from this set, we have Gravedigger Skeleton. When summoned, you may select a spirit that costs 2 or fewer from your trash and summon it exhausted. That's great. Summon a 2-cost from the trash, and it can be AntMan. And then you, it's exhausted, so you're not going to be able to chump block with it immediately. But hey, keep the ramp going, potentially. Really interesting and kind of funny thing that I wanted to just compare here is how insane Bearded Eagle is from set 1. It's a 3-cost, 3 reduction, 1 core for 3,000, 2 cores for 5,000, 4 cores for 7,000. I just want to show you some spirits, okay? We've got this new red spirit, 3-cost, 1 reduction, 1 core, trash, and then you have to go all the way to 4 cores for level 2 to be at 7,000 at Bearded Eagle level. Next, we've got the Blue Sky Dragon, also red card, 3-cost, 2 reduction, so not quite as much reduction as Bearded Eagle. Its level 1 and level 3 are the same as Bearded Eagle, but its level 2 is 1,000 BP less, so still worse than Bearded Eagle. And then next we've got Earth Prison Knight Leftist, 3-cost, 1 reduction, and it's the same thing as Blade Hide Dino over here. Same level and same reduction, same cores, just it's not Bearded Eagle. It's unfortunate. And on top of that, another one is it got a little close, is the Great Shield Angel, 3-cost, 3 reduction, looking good, but it's the same amount of cores for each level as Bearded Eagle, but it's minus 1,000 BP for each of the levels. So probably not a bad card, but it just shows you how insane Bearded Eagle is. Next, we arrive at AntMan General. This card is awesome. 3-cost, 2 reduction. When summoned, you get to summon an AntMan token. And the tokens have reduction as well. So you can kind of use them as ramp in a sense. But what's really cool is this card synergizes with this white card over here, Thunder Godmech Donner. This spirit has a level 2 effect that says when the spirit attacks or blocks, you can select one of your token spirits. You may place all of its cores onto this spirit and then draw 2 cards. So if you end up making a green-white ramp type deck, you could put the AntMan General in, and on your next turn, you can summon Donner, attack, you could block, and you're gonna be able to draw 2 cards from that. On top of that, this site doesn't have the new spells in it yet, but we've got them over here on Twitter. This green spell, the Ant Strike Back, is another really good way of doing that. It has a burst when your opponent destroys one of your spirits. You can activate the main effect without paying the cost, and it just summons 2 AntMan tokens. So theoretically, even in your own attack step, you could set this, go to attack with a small unit, it dies, you burst this, summon 2 more tokens, and then you can go back to Donner attacking and sacrifice one of those tokens to be able to draw 2 cards. I think this card is gonna find play somewhere. I think it's awesome. It's also, you got to watch out for the 4 and 5 costs, because that means Beldegor is also a potential card you can put in a deck with this card. Next, we've got Dark Knight Lamerack. This card is just generally really good, I think. I think this card is going to find its way into core control or even into potentially Nemesis type decks. It just has, when it dies at any level, you get to remove a core from one of your opponent's spirits. And that is just going to kill him sometimes, you know? And you're going to be able to block with this and do that. It's a 4 cost, so you can summon a Beldegor off of it. During your turn at level 2 or 3, the first time one of your purple spirits is destroyed, each turn you can return that spirit from your trash to your hand, and that even counts him. So you could put him to level 2, try to attack. If your opponent kills it, just literally put him back in your hand, and also summon a Beldegor off of it. Pretty interesting. I think it's going to find play somewhere for sure. I'm sure there's going to be so many combos with that card. Another card to keep in mind, it's from set 1, Gun Knight Heavy Barrel. Just a generic when destroyed by opponent effect. Select one of your opponent's spirits with a when summoned effect and return it to the bottom of their deck. There's so many more when summons in this set, so many more. Almost every deck is going to have some when summons in it. However the meta ends up shaking out, if you remember this card exists, it might be a worthwhile card to put in your deck. Just putting one of their spirits straight to the bottom of their deck. You'll literally never see it again for the rest of the game. Pretty crazy. Gunsmith Mime. When summoned, it summons another token. This is great, obviously, again, with Donner. Being able to use that token to draw 2 cards. I think that's going to be the main usefulness for it. Also, White's tokens actually have 3,000 BP, which is not bad. The green tokens only have 1,000. But this is could potentially be a double blocker, you know, when you summon it. And it's also a 4 cost, so Beldegor possibly. This red card, King Vulture, 4 cost, 1 reduction. When summoned, your opponent selects one of their nexuses that costs 3 or 6. The main thing that's really cool about this is that you can destroy Netherworld depths. It's also an Emperor Beast. So potentially Pterosaur decks could side deck this, and when they're playing against purple, they could also just side this card in, and it would theoretically be a better side than the Nebula Dragon Andromeda, just because it's an Emperor Beast. It'll end up probably costing you about the same to summon it, but you'll be able to destroy Netherworld with it, and it won't get in the way of you summoning your Giganto Rex, and it will actually help you summon it. So really, really good here, I think. Its second effect isn't too bad either. It gets Confront at level 2 if your opponent has a when summoned effect on board. Not bad. Next card we have here is Arcana Joker, 5 cost, 2 reduction. When summoned, this spirit becomes Derm Dyna this turn. Yeah, it can't be blocked this turn. It's pretty nice. And it only takes 3 cores to get it out of Burning Force range, so it's not too crazy. It also has this combo effect that says at level 2 and 3, when this spirit attacks, you can select one of your other lander spirits, activate one of its when summoned effects with this spirit. And something you can do with that is, if you choose Light Emperor Lumineer, this spirit's when summoned effect lets you target one of your spirits and it gains blessed this turn. And that can even target itself. So theoretically, if you have Light Emperor already on your board, you can summon Arcana Joker, make this spirit unblockable, put it at level 2 or 3, declare an attack, and then use the when summoned effect of Lumineer to have Arcana Joker become blessed. So then it's like a dual eagle that is automatically unblockable, just in general. Level 1s, level 2s, level 3s, you can't block it. So pretty insane. I think that's really cool. Also 5 cost, so you know what that means. Next, we've got Corpse Giant Gagasha. It's a new immortal card, and it's immortal for 6 costs and 10 costs. Overall, obviously, this card's stats are pretty bad. It doesn't have like a when summon effect or anything really cool. It has a when the spirit attacks, select one of your opponent's spirits with 1 core, and it can't block during this battle, which is like theoretically not terrible. But I mean, yeah, it's still gonna cost a lot. It would be nice if it had more reductions, just because, you know, still paying 3 for this is not that great. But it has some interesting looping potentials because it has 6 costs in here, and you can combo that with, oh dang, I don't even have it over here, but I've got it over here, this new Cyclo Winder card that is also immortal for 1 cost and 4 costs. So you could like have a Camelot Knight die or a Lancer die, and you could summon this guy from your grave, and then this guy dies, and then you could just summon Gagasha, and then Gagasha dies, and then you could summon a Beldegor. So it's I mean, you'd have to have a lot of cores for all that, but theoretically the synergy's there, and it seems pretty neat. It's also undead, so it can get summoned off of Void Ogre Emperor on this when summoned effect. Yeah, and then also when Void Ogre dies eventually, because it's a 10 cost, then Gagasha can come back again. Just some interesting combos there. Now, I've got Mordred on here. What's a new combo with Mordred? Well, purple got this reanimate spell that during your main phase, you can pay the cost, 5 cost, 3 reduction. So the cheapest it can cost is 2. Select a spirit in your trash that costs 5 or fewer and summon it without paying its cost. So that means you could theoretically, it's almost like more Mordreds, but with 3 reduction instead of 5. And it doesn't negate the when summon effect, so you can literally use reanimate, bring Beldegor back from the trash, use the when summoned effect, which is quite strong, and there you go. And then, you know, loop some more Beldegor afterwards. Something else to keep in mind with reanimate is, yeah, you don't pay the spirit's cost at all. So theoretically, in a purple deck with your 5 cost, 3 purple reduction potentially, you could summon any color of 5 cost. You could summon this Emerald Greatbird and be able to exhaust something. You could summon an Ice Blader from your grave. You could summon a Viridian Dragon Rider. It's pretty awesome. Lots of cool stuff you could do. The mill deck might be, the self-mill deck that is, theoretically could be pretty cool. But my brain is not ready to try to craft that deck right now. A new cool card we've got here is Blizister Eagle, 6 cost, 5 reduction, so potentially could literally cost 1. It's a machine beast, which is relevant to its 6 cost, which means that the Namengard City Nexus could, by itself, reduce the cost of this card by 3, which is nice. It has purple, green, and yellow armor, which are all very relevant for this card, because at just 3 cores, it can get out of Volcanic Break range, and even just at 1 core, it's already out of Burning Force range. So it's kind of dodging all of the relevant colors that it needs to dodge. Obviously, white having Dream Bomb and their new Dream Bomb-like spell in Valkyrie Mist could do something about this, but overall, I mean, you've got lots of reductions on this, so you're not going to get punished too much by this getting returned to your hand. But a really cool thing on this is at level 2, when the spirit blocks, this spirit cannot be destroyed by your opponent's destruction effects during the battle, which counts curse. So you'll be able to also just dodge curse with Blizister Eagle. With Divine Saturn Dragon Kronos Boros, I don't have like any like insane synergy things with this, but I did just want to make sure everybody saw this. Now, I don't think this card is actually that good right now. It's, you know, pretty expensive to play. It's when level 1, 2, 3, when destroyed by opponent, your opponent selects one of their spirits and removes 3 of its cores and places them into their reserve. That's not bad at all. Like, that's literally a core drain when this dies. So, like, yeah, that's not bad. But what's interesting is its when summoned effect. If you summon it at level 2 or 3, and you spend the soul core as part of its summoning cost, your opponent selects one of their spirits and removes a core. Now, the thing about it is it removes the core that's not the soul core, and it puts it into the void. That's why it has this in bold right here. You're basically de-ramping your opponent every time you summon this spirit. They literally going to have less cores for the rest of the game every time you summon Divine Saturn Dragon. I just think that that's really cool. It's the first effect that we kind of have in here like this that you can do to your opponent. And I mean, obviously Blood Curse does that as well. When you deal damage, instead of it going to the reserve, it goes to the void. But yeah, I just thought that was cool. Just wanted to make sure you saw that. What do I have Floating Grave White Whale on here for? Well, I mean, first of all, yeah, pretty expensive to play him. But I'm going to show you something in just a second after this. First, we'll just go over the effect. When the spirit attacks, discard the top 3 cards of your deck. Select one of your opponent's spirits for each spirit discarded this way. Remove all but 1 core from those spirits and place those cores into the reserve. And then at level 2 or 3, during your attack step, when one of your spirits, any of them, attack, whenever any of their attacks reduces your opponent's life, you can select one of your opponent's spirits and place 1 core from them into the reserve. So basically, its effects synergize with each other. You declare an attack with Floating Grave first. Hopefully you discard at least, a couple spirits off the top of your deck. You put a couple of their spirits down to level 1, which potentially should help with just him not dying. And then if you deal damage, if they don't block, which the blocking will probably kill them, but if they just take the damage, then you're going to be able to strip the final core off of some of those spirits. So yeah, I think that that's pretty good. But how are we summoning him? We're going to actually summon him with the Void Ogre Emperor, because in the mill deck, which, the Grave wants you to be playing a little bit of a mill deck, he's undead. This is an undead spirit, and Void Ogre Emperor's when summon effect lets you get a undead spirit from your trash and summon it without paying the cost. The when summon effects don't happen, but Floating Grave does not have a when summon effect. So a really easy way of summoning this guy, which is pretty cool. You can also summon Maduke off of that. Maduke is undead. Very neat. This next card is Merged Mechlord Mammoth Aegis. It's a white card, 8 cost, 4 reduction, and it is a machine beast. So yet another machine beast that's going to benefit from Namengard City. And its when summon effect is you draw a card if you have fewer cards in your hand than your opponent has in theirs, and you also place a core from the void into your life if you have less life than your opponent. This card is just awesome in my opinion. For a control or even like a tempo white deck, it's going to be really awesome because white doesn't have that much draw power and basically every other color does. So you're almost always going to be able to draw a card when you play this, and because you're usually taking hits early, you're also gonna heal, which is essentially ramp as well. So that's really cool. But the bonus effect at 4 cores during your opponent's turn, when the spirit is exhausted, select one of your opponent's spirits that costs 5 or fewer and return it to the hand. So it's basically like Buffalo Bill's effect of when it blocks. But the important thing to notice here is this is just an effect that says during your opponent's turn. And so during your opponent's turn, when the spirit is exhausted, this effect happens. That means now that we have green and they have spirit effects and they have spell effects and even a nexus that exhausts the spirit, if any of those effects target Mechlord Mammoth Aegis and he's at level 2, you're going to be able to bounce one of your opponent's spirits just because they exhausted him. So that's actually pretty relevant, I think. The next card is Rage Dragon Emperor Ira. The main thing I'm even mentioning this isn't for any combos or anything, but something I just want to make sure everybody's noticing. When summoned, you select 10 spirits with 4,000 or fewer BP and destroy them. Now, you need to know that this doesn't say select 10 of your opponent's spirits. It's 10 spirits and it's mandatory. It doesn't say select up to. You have to select that many. And granted, you need a lot of reductions on here to summon him at an effective cost. You might end up blowing up some of your own guys. So make sure you're watching out for that when you summon the Rage Dragon. It's going to force you to destroy some of your 4,000 or fewer if you're not careful. We've already gone over the Void Ogre Emperor for the most part. Nothing else really to note here. Yeah, it has Curse, But curse at 10,000, which I mean is almost never going to matter. But there are purple cards like, I believe Purple Smoke Valley's second effect can cause your curse units to be unblockable in a sense. So he could become unblockable by that effect. And, you know, at the maximum cores, your opponent selects one of their spirits and removes 3 cores from it, placing them into the reserve. So can also potentially just kill a spirit. And it doesn't require it to be an exhausted one. You know, thankfully, obviously, having 6 cores on this huge guy, you like it to be the most flexible effect possible. Okay. Something else I wanted to show is the Heaven Piercing Castle from the starter deck in set 1. Now, yeah, you know, during your opponent's turn, you can pay a soul core to draw a card. Yeah, that's cool. But the level 2 effect during your opponent's attack step, or no, my apologies. During your attack step, when one of your spirits with when this spirit blocks attacks, you may place 2 cores from your trash onto it. Now, this effect counts spirits like Donner and like the Ice Maid that, what is it called? I've got it over here somewhere. Spoilers. Head Snow Librarian Saga. Okay, they have this effect that says when the spirit attacks or blocks, these spirits also benefit from that. So you could, I believe, theoretically, oh wait, no, you'd have to be at level 2. So you have to be at this level already. Whatever level makes them have this, so you'd have to have 3 cores on this already to be able to have the effect. But you can put 2 cores from your trash onto your spirit, which will allow you to spend them for whatever else you got to spend them for during the attack step on any spells or anything else. And that can combo with this Godmech Donner to be able to potentially summon a Beldegor if it dies, because you're going to be getting more cores from your trash so that when he dies, you're going to be able to spend him for Beldegor. Pretty neat in my opinion. And there's quite a bit. There's the Blizister Eagle that says when the spirit blocks. So you're going to be able to do that some way. And the other reason this is pretty neat is there's the new card Reboot Code. 7 cost, 4 reduction spell. And in the burst, it says when your opponent destroys your spirit, all of your white spirits gain the following effect. They gain when this spirit blocks, this spirit gains 2,000 BP during this battle. And then you can pay cores to activate the flash effect, which says select up to 3 of your spirits and refresh them. During this turn, your spirits without when the spirit blocks cannot attack. So you could set Reboot Code on your turn, declare an attack, something dies. Okay, one of your spirits dies. And, you know, say you've got Heaven Piercing Castle, level 2 here, you know, you burst Reboot Code. That's going to be able to make all of your spirits say when the spirit blocks. And if they've already attacked, they're going to refresh so you can attack with all of them. So you could theoretically attack with some bigger ones first, and then attack with one that your opponent's going to block or will die. And then Reboot Code, refresh them because they're all going to get the when the spirit blocks effect. And they're all going to be able to attack again. And if you have Heaven Piercing Castle, you're going to be able to get all the cores that you spent on that card back from your trash onto your spirits. I know this sounds like a big ask, but I think it's pretty neat. Just something to keep on your radar. Next, we've got Giant Wood Castle Keep. This is a green Nexus, 5 cost, 2 reductions, so basically costs as much as Netherworld Depths. And the thing that's really interesting about this to me is it is kind of like a permanent suppression. So it says at level 1, so 0 cores on here. During your opponent's attack step, when one of your spirits with a soul core on it destroys one of your opponent's spirits via comparing BP, select one of your spirits and refresh it. So what you can do is just refresh your spirit that has the soul core on it. So theoretically, you know, say you have your Enterprise, your Dragon Ship Enterprise with 12,000 BP, and it's on the board, and it's got the soul core, you block and kill something. You know, obviously it can refresh with its own effect, but after that happens again, you're still going to be able to just refresh infinite as long as it kills something when it blocks, it's going to keep refreshing just because this is up here. You could do that with Elk. Say you've got, you know, your Elk is at level 3, it's got 10,000 BP. Maybe you've got a full on board, so you put the soul core on your Elk so it's not going to get its cores ripped off. And then Elk's going to block and it's not going to die by battle too. So even if you're, or destruction effects, so even if they have curse units, you're going to block, it's going to kill their unit, and you're going to be able to have the giant wood castle just automatically refresh Elk to just keep blocking as long as it keeps killing stuff. So kind of crazy. The second effect is pretty cool too. Not super relevant all the time, but I mean, when you're realistically probably playing this card for the infinite suppression effect, you know, if your opponent has some wind destroyed effects, you just pop 2 cores on here, and that'll be strong too. So pretty cool. All right, this one is the silliest and craziest one that I just want to mention. Just a combo that is possible with the Lightning Aura card. It's a red spell, red magic, that is 3 cost 2 reduction. Use it during your main phase. You select one of your spirits, and it gains Confront this turn. So, what you can do is you have Maduke, right? You have Maduke at max level, and it's making your little curse guys have blood curse, and like Aglavel, for example. And then you put Lightning Aura on Aglavel. So now Aglavel has curse, blood curse, and confront. And you're gonna wipe your opponent's board with it because Aglavel only has 3,000 BP when it has curse. You stack up a few extra cores on Aglavel with blood curse. It's gonna attack in. Your opponent is gonna have to block. Aglavel's going to try to die because it's gonna be lower, and you're gonna use blood curse to refresh it and not die, which is also gonna burn your opponent and kill your opponent's spirit. It still has confront, so you're gonna attack again, and they're gonna block again. It's gonna kill their spirit. Aglavel's gonna attempt to die, but blood curse, you're gonna pay a core. It's gonna refresh it. It's gonna burn your opponent's life, and you're gonna just keep going. And that's pretty crazy. I think that's pretty crazy. The ultimate hilarious thing you could do is you could use suppression. If you had suppression in your deck too, this would take so many cores. You use suppression on your opponent's axe spider that can't die by destruction effects, and now can block while exhausted. And then you do the same thing. You core up your Aglavel with Maduke and use Lightning Aura on Aglavel. They attack in, and their axe spider just has to keep blocking, and it'll just burn them. Just burn them to death. Just infinite combo. Boom, 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 boom. And they're dead. I would love to see that happen at some point. Just as long as it's not happening to me, of course. Next, we've got Infinity Shield. It's another suppression, basically. 4 cost, 2 reduction, just like suppression. It's a flash. Select one of your Machine Beast or Mecha Spirits. That spirit can block while exhausted during this turn. The downside is it's not buffing your spirit. You don't get plus 3,000 like suppression. And but the upside is that you don't have to use the soul core to do it. And it's the other plus side is it's also theoretically, if you're using Axe Spider or if you're using Elk, it's like another ice shield. So potentially Elk could get really annoying with 4 suppression, 4 infinity shield, and 4 ice shield. So we'll see what happens there. 2 more cards to just give some reminders about Starblast draw right here with the Wind Summon effect. There's got so many Wind Summons coming out. I mean, you're going to be able to splash this in almost every deck just because the Wind Summons. It's not bad. So just, I mean, you were going to remember this anyways, I'm pretty sure. Now we've got Assassinate, a purple magic card, 5 cost, 3 reduction. This is really important. This says in the main step, okay? I think this might be something some people might miss. It says main step. Your opponent selects one of their exhausted spirits and destroys it. When I first saw this card, I was really excited because I did not see that this said it was in the main step, because I was like, wow, my opponent attacks, and on their first attack, I can just kill it from hand. Just burst, they're dead. Pay 2 cores, just kill it. Whatever it is, whatever size spirit it is, however many cores are on it, it's dead. But nope, it's not. It's a deadly balance that you have to use in your main step that doesn't kill one of your own spirits. It's a little bit unfortunate, because if your opponent attacks with more than 1 spirit and both of them end up being exhausted and it's your turn, like, they're gonna be able to destroy whichever one they want because your opponent selects it. So it's I don't know, it's a little bit sad. Dragonaga Assassin being on here is pretty epic, but yeah, that's about all I've got for that one. And I know I already mentioned Reboot Code, but the last thing really to mention here is the Axe Spider deck, or the Spellslinger deck. It inherently has a decent amount of when this spirit blocks spirits in them, and you don't have to use the burst of this. You could just literally, you could swing in with your Elk, you could swing in with your Grey Armor, you could swing in with your Enterprise, and I mean, you could even in the tempo deck, you could swing in with your Odin, you could swing in with the Donner as when the spirit blocks too, and then you can activate Reboot Code and refresh all of them. So, and they can all attack again. So pretty crazy. I do think this card is going to be pretty rad. Those are the main synergies I wanted to talk about in this video. But if you want to check out this next video, I'm going to be showing some little brews, some deck brews. Like I said, they are not refined at all, but I did spend hours and hours and hours yesterday just kind of looking at the new cards and figuring out where these cards could fit. So hopefully it inspires you and helps you make a really awesome deck. And then I'll just take your deck and I'll bring it to locals, and I appreciate you. Okay, so check out that video, and I'll see you over there.